back to the festive and epic Comic Vault. I am Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
And today Eric and I are going to tackle Grant Morrison's Klaus. Grant Morrison with spectacular artwork by Dan Mora. This is a series that started last year.
November, I think.
And finished this year. And my main complaint about it is just, I wish it had come out like this in the first place.
Yeah, just release a graphic novel.
Just at Christmas time.
Yep.
Because
that was the problem, is they got delayed, I think.
Yeah.
And I didn't finish this in issues, you didn't finish this.
Right.
And we loved it. We were loving it. I don't know anyone that finished reading this in issues.
And it reads like a graphic novel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you get it all together, like there are clear cutoffs for where we end issues, certainly, but boy, it does not feel like a miniseries. It feels like it's intended to be read in one sitting. I think it's a pretty quick read.
Yeah, yeah.
Sitting down reading
Especially
it
given
all
it's like
together
8
this way.
issues or something like
It's
that.
7.
It's 7.
Yeah.
That's such a weird number for a miniseries. They're usually 6 or 8.
Yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes you get kind of that number. I was gonna say it kind of makes sense because 7 is like a big like biblical number and stuff, but this isn't exactly a biblical thing. So I was gonna go there, and then I was like, well, that probably isn't it. But you know, that's kind of a traditional number.
How long you need to tell a story.
Yeah, precisely. Anyway, so if you don't know anything about Klaus, and of course, as always, we're gonna spoil the heck out of this thing. But Klaus is Morrison's take on the origin of Santa Claus, and he turns it into kind of a dark fantasy epic set in the Middle Ages, and set during the time that in real life the idea of Santa Claus starts to come about. So like mid 1600s. It reads a little Norse. Like he
a little Celtic.
A little Celtic, yeah. He feels like one of the big epic heroes. But I feel like he feels a little bit more like a Thor before he feels like a Hercules.
Yeah. Maybe a little Beowulf in him.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an absolute masterpiece.
Yeah.
And it's going to be hard not to just spend this whole time gushing over this. I have quite a bit to say about it, and we'll just kind of jump into it. And
no, you've read it twice. I flipped through it a little bit ago, but I haven't actually read it a second time. So I have one thing that maybe you can explain to me.
Absolutely, yeah.
Read it a second
and
time.
there were a couple of reservations you had that I was looking for while I read this time, and I have ideas.
Okay.
You had one thing in particular that I still think is a question.
The kid, right?
Well, I guess we'll get there.
Okay.
I don't write off. Yes. I know what you're talking about. Yes, absolutely. This is, and I'm seeing other reviews online saying this. Not that I've gone in and read a bunch of reviews, but I was looking for some information earlier, and I saw in at least one title of a review the phrase "instant classic."
Oh, no, absolutely.
Which I absolutely agree with, and a thing that I don't like to say. I don't like to throw that around. Yeah, absolutely. This is right
it's the
for
definitive Santa origin.
At least for superhero comics, yeah, in that sort of vein, absolutely.
Yeah. This is the Santa I want to raise my children on.
Yeah, because this isn't just let's make him a badass. Mm-hmm. He is that.
Yeah.
But it's very much let's have the core Christmas values at the center of why he does what he does, and it reads like a fairy tale. But it also works really well as traditional narrative at the same time, I think. He has a real character arc.
It also reads like a superhero origin.
And it reads like a superhero origin. I think all of the major players in this, even the bad guy, are sympathetic to some degree. That guy probably less so than, say, like the kid and the mother Dagmar, where by the end I find myself rooting for them. And of course, you're not supposed to root for him, but I also do kind of wonder how he gets the way he gets. We'll talk about that. But it's not just morality play, but it is also morality play.
Right.
So let's go ahead and just get straight into it. I don't know if you want to try to tackle this one linearly, or
I don't know. This one might be a little tough to tackle linearly.
Yeah.
I don't know. Where do you want to start? Should we start Krampus? Let's start at the end.
No. Let's start. Let's start with the main reason to jump into this, which is using the Christmas iconography to form this character. The idea of turning Santa Claus into a superhero and giving him that kind of an origin is a thing I've always wanted to see.
And I feel like we've tried this a couple of times.
Okay.
I can't cite anything, but I feel like we've talked about and we've tried a couple of, well, there was that Rise of the Guardians thing. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a couple of times we've taken a stab at this, and I loved Rise of the Guardians.
Well, and we've been trying to come up with clever ways Santa Claus gets started, going all the way back. You know, you got that stop motion movie, the 1970 Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Like that's a Santa Claus origin.
Yeah, there's a lot of Santa Claus. There's like the story of Santa Claus. There's one that I think is just called Santa Claus. I don't know. I think it came out in the 70s. It was really boring. I mean, I watched it as a kid. It was really boring.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really boring.
Yeah. I'm waiting.
And then we keep reinventing it. You've got Tim Allen's The Santa
I'm waiting
Claus.
for the prequel to that, where we get the origin of that Santa Claus, that contract. There's got to be a scene where like they're writing the contract and putting in the clause and everything.
The first one, yeah. That's a clever play on words. I always like that idea.
Yeah, I do too.
That's kind of fun. But this has got to be the best I've ever seen.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely. This is my favorite Santa origin.
And is ripe for adaptation. It will be a shame if this is never optioned for something. We were talking about this the other day. I think this would make for, and not to more legitimize it, because I think it makes for a wonderful comic book, and there are things in this that that might work better in panels than they would taking off panel, but I think it is really cinematic. It is really storyboard. It would be really easy to turn this into something. I think an animated 2D epic would be the way to go with this.
I really want to see the guys. If this
But I think live action could also be
If this got adapted, I would want to see the guys that did Kubo and Paranorman. Those guys, because they're doing stop motion, but they're able to do it on a level that I've never seen before. Like, they can have big action scenes. I'd like to see them do it.
And see, I was, and that makes perfect sense, but I was reminded all the way through this of the darker, for these things, the darker early 90s Disney 2D classics. Like I was reminded of Beauty and the Beast a little bit, just in the look of the thing, and atmosphere, and I was reminded of Hunchback of Notre Dame a little bit.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that.
And that's a thing Disney should think about looking at.
Yeah.
You know, I could really see Disney teaming up with Boom and doing that.
Well, and they like to put out a movie around Christmas time. Like Frozen came out around Christmas time. This would be a great another like winter Disney movie.
Yeah, we should mention that this is not a kid-friendly thing, but I think it could be. I think it could be made to be that.
Is it not kid-friendly?
It's too bloody.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I will lob that criticism at it. I think it gets more bloody than it needs to, but that's partly just Morrison being authentic to the kind of story he's trying to tell.
Yeah, it's more the Grimm's fairy tale as opposed to the Disney fairy tale.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm of two minds about it, because it doesn't take me out. It doesn't make me go, oh, that's sensationalized or obligatory. It has to, or excuse me, gratuitous. But at the same time, I can't hand this to my kid, and I want to.
Right. Yeah.
Because of the philosophy and the ideology that's behind it.
And it's just cool.
And it's just cool.
Yeah, I do want to kind of see this as a movie. If for no other reason than more people get to see it. Yeah. It's really cool.
There's no reason that shouldn't be one of the most mainstream Santa Claus things.
Absolutely.
And it's got legs. You can keep doing stuff with it, as Morrison is. We have it here in the house. We haven't read it yet.
Yep.
He's got
and the Winter Witch.
Yes.
Or the Witch of Winter, something like that.
A new
mixing it up.
Oversized one-shot that stands alone. The one thing we know about it is that it's set in present day, and I'm excited about that. But we'll be reviewing that for you next week on
unless it sucks.
Comic Late Night.
Or it's meh.
Yeah,
they don't want to have their top 3 or worst.
Yeah, that's a good point, but
it's Morrison. I doubt that will happen.
I do not see that happening. I'm jumping around, but let me mention that too. You're a giant Morrison fan.
Yeah.
I like a lot of things I've read by Morrison, but I never call myself a Morrison fan, partly just because I've never finished Morrison Batman. I've never read past R.I.P. There's I say that I've read
You've read some of the later stuff
of some of the later stuff with Incorporated and stuff, and I've read more recently what can't I think of it right away, the interdimensional thing.
Oh, Multiversity.
Multiversity, thank you.
Which I've not read yet.
But I don't feel like I've read enough, and sometimes he's too kind of out there, and I can't grasp.
You've read All-Star Superman, right?
Yes, and
there's a lot of Superman in this.
Yeah. And I've read his 52 Superman, which I like the first couple arcs of.
Yeah.
But oh boy, is this one of the best comics I've ever read.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's so tight. And he has a real command of narrative. It's really easy to look at Morrison as just the weird guy.
Yeah.
He just jumps around, or not jumps around, but you always talk about how he likes to seed things and pay it off like 40 million issues later. And it's easy, and he also likes to just do weird trippy stuff where you don't right away know what you're even looking at or why.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's easy to forget that he also understands the comics medium, and he knows how to write something shorter and cohesive, and that is a full shorter piece. Like I think Grant Morrison probably knows how to write a 22-page comic book.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sure he knows how to do that.
He has this great command of the absurd.
Yeah.
And with that melodrama, when I first read this, the line that made me fall in love with this book, that is so over the top but perfectly toned, is when there's a kid playing with a rock and the soldier said, take it away, children aren't allowed to have toys, and he says, it's not a toy, it's a rock, and the soldier says, anything can be a toy in the hands of a child.
Yeah.
That's so over the top, but it's just perfect.
See, in the context of this, it's not.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is I'm never thinking this is absurd or this is over the top. Part of it is that fairy tale context. And part of it is the heightened language he's using. It's not just a period thing, it's also, it's not supposed to be real. It's a real heightened kind of world, clearly. And so I'm never thinking absurd.
Well, I'm not while I'm reading it, but out of context, that's a really silly line. It feels real when you're reading it. Yeah. It feels legitimate. And he does that all the time. He has a real command of the absurd so that it doesn't feel absurd. He can do whimsy without it feeling whimsical, which might be a way to describe this book. On
the other hand, you have a character in Klaus who thinks all of this is ridiculous, and so even for him, that's stupid and ridiculous. It's abuse of power. You have a guy who is the Baron and has taken over this, and he's created something preposterous. Yeah. And so it's not a silly line because his soldiers have to do what he says. Right. He's the one that's out there and nuts.
Right. I think it's weird that they let him not. Because this is a continuance of the abuse of power. They let him into the town. Yeah. And then they're like, screw you outside, and they beat him up and take his stuff. They let him in, and then they're like, we don't like outsiders, and they take his stuff.
Yeah, I don't know why they let him spend any time in that pub.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that was weird about that to me. I think they were trying to trick him. Because it was like, well, you have wares, so we'll let you into the city so that we can take your stuff, because anything that's inside the city belongs to Magnus and his family. Right. But I don't know why they let him spend any time there at all. That was weird. Just so that he could have that conversation with the barkeep.
That was their mistake.
Yeah, exactly. So we're in this town that we find out later Klaus actually grew up in. Yes. And there's an origin for the character who then gets the Santa Claus origin later on. And
how do you feel about the fact that this is the town that he grew up in? Because he seems to just stumble on it by happenstance, like I've been here before.
I wondered about that initially. That's the way he's talking about it to that barkeep, but I think that's supposed to be unreliable narrator to a degree.
Oh, okay. I thought he talked about it to the wolf.
I'm not sure why he decides to come back now, as opposed to any other time. It seems like he's just been wandering and he's homesick. Maybe I'm not sure. We don't entirely get in his head with that. And I forget what exactly his conversation. What exactly. He says to the wolf. I can't even call that an exchange because he's talking to a wolf. Real quick, did you wonder about this? They actually fight a giant reindeer.
Yeah.
And by the end, when he fully becomes Santa Claus, he's using wolves instead of reindeer, and that was a choice I wondered about.
I'm sure.
I'm just curious as to why he went that way.
I'm sure because Morrison talked about how he went back and like deep into the lore and the history of Santa, I'm sure that comes from something.
No, I'm sure
he found some kind of weird like Celtic or Norse something somewhere, and he's like, "That's cool. I'll use that."
I mean, that's a tribute to the book. It made me want to do a lot of research.
Yeah,
certainly. And I had to look up like the term Santa and stuff because the kids come up with it.
I kind of wish there was like a thing in the back of this book, because if I have any complaint about this hardcover, it's beautiful. There are no special.
There's no special features.
I kind of wish in the back of it was like. There was like a small thing that's like the truth about Santa, and it just tells you the things in this book that are actually pulled from some kind of Santa lore.
Yeah.
That would be nice. I would like that.
And what lore he was pulling from that wasn't related.
Yeah.
Because there might have been some of that. So, when we were, and I wish we had recorded our conversation the other day, right after we both read this, because we basically reviewed this already. But, but you questioned the town already being called Grimsvig.
That's one of the things I questioned. Why is it Grimsvig?
I think I figured it out. Maybe. So yeah, maybe I don't know. So Grimsvig is this town that, like I said, Klaus grew up in. He's just come back to, and it's not the place it used to be. And the idea is the current Baron is forcing all of the men and pushing them to their deaths, most of them, to mine coal. And the reason we find that he needs all this coal, and of course it's got to be coal, right?
Yeah,
the reason we find that it's coal is because, or that they're mining coal is because there's this monster he's trying to feed, and they need all this coal for this monster, and the monster, what the monster really wants is to devour the naughty children. That's his whole thing, and that's basically supposed to kind of be Krampus. So they talk. Magnus talks about the monster as like the heart of the town, like it's like the underbelly, the old beating heart of the town. The sense I get is that perhaps it's called Grimsvig because it used to be a scary place because of Krampus, and then Grimsvig, kind of like Doomsday, gets buried and put in a wall. And then the name doesn't change, but it becomes a happy, jolly place. And then now it's turned back into something grim again.
Okay.
That's the best I can come up with.
Reading it, I just thought it was weird. I was like, okay, he makes this big deal about how it's not the way it used to be, but it was still called Grimsvig back in the day when it was happy.
Yeah.
Like, that's just weird. But I also think it might be a little too silly if he'd renamed the town.
No, that would be silly, yeah. And of course, it's that standard fairy tale thing. We do this a lot in comics too, where you have names of things that reflect what they are. But as you say, that gets kind of odd when it seems like it's just prophetic, where it's like, well, the place is called Grimsvig, so it must at some point get grim, even if it wasn't initially.
The other thing I had a question about
that
you might be able to answer is the whole thing with the kid. So at the beginning, it seems like because I don't think the coal mining thing is in the first issue at all.
We're told that that's where all the men are.
Oh, okay.
That they're in the mines.
Okay. We're told at the beginning that he's taking all the toys for his kid.
Yeah.
And he gives them to his kid. But then later, he's just taking all the toys because they're not allowed to have any joy.
Yeah.
Those two things don't seem to exactly fit together.
Okay, I think I figured it out.
Or it's a red herring.
So the idea, the thing you have to remember is what, excuse me, Magnus's motivation is in the first place. Magnus's sole motivation is not to get to the monster. The monster is a means to an end.
Right.
So the point of the monster is to give him power. And he thinks if he gets the monster out, the monster will give him everything he promised because he earned it. And of course, that's not what's going to happen.
And there's a whole thing about this sword that he can't lift. It's too heavy, very Thor's hammery. That's the sword of the king, or who used to rule the town, or something like that.
And I think it's supposed to be the sword of the king of the Baron he murders. Important that it's a Baron, because there's a king that is over the whole land, and he comes in at the end.
Yeah.
And of course he's like a good, noble, altruistic king. And so anyway, and
he's King Richard in Robin Hood.
Yeah, and the idea is that that everybody thinks Klaus murdered the Baron, but it was actually him. And,
he poisons him But he makes it look like Klaus killed him.
Yeah, we have this very other side of the coin thing with them, where he is Klaus's arch nemesis, and they have opposing ideologies. And one thinks that the more you give, the more you receive, and the other person is take. And of course, that's obviously the Christmas philosophy put in a story form. And so the deal with the toys is. The children aren't supposed to have any joy because that's what the monster ends up feeding on. And I actually have a new question because of that whole thing that I'm a little unsure about. But I think I figured this out. Maybe those toys have to go somewhere, and the monster is the means to the end of not just power but everything he wants. And the main thing he wants is this family. So he wants his wife, who is kind of forced into this whole thing, to love him, and
so he's trying to spoil their kids, so his kid's happy, so that his wife will love him. Okay, that makes sense.
That's why that's there. The big question I have is how this makes children more naughty in the eyes of the monster. Because at the end, it's all, I want to eat the bad children, and I love Klaus's "there are no bad children."
Yeah,
that's like the best moment in the book.
Yeah. It's possible, maybe, that...
Especially because the book is blaming the parents, and that's what I would do, and I love that.
There's some kind of, maybe, commentary on good and bad, and that, well, the law says they're not supposed to be doing this, but they keep doing it, therefore they're bad children.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what that is?
Maybe so. Like I don't know if he is an elemental...
Or Krampus doesn't actually care, and he just considers all children naughty. That's also a possibility.
Maybe that's what it is, yeah.
Because, theoretically... everyone does good and bad things. If Santa's looking at the good in you, and Krampus is looking at the bad in you.
Yeah.
And you could have that for every person.
Because the thing is, the only bad child this whole situation ends up really creating is the one who gets all the toys in the first place.
And he grows throughout the book.
He does, and again, he's not a bad child. He's been turned into this by his parents. I like that he starts to come around when his mother starts to play with him and teaches him about imagination. That is a really great moment when this kid is trying to figure out where the magic is in the toys.
Yeah.
And he figures out that the magic was inside you all along. And but what I really like about that is that later on, he hasn't fully changed yet. It's not a light switch. When he has to deal with other kids, he says, "Back off or I'll catch something." I mean, I like that he hasn't fully changed it. He still has some ground to cover.
Well, and he also learns storytelling.
Yeah.
When he goes to play with his toys, he's like, and then this eats that. And like that's his whole I'm playing with toys.
Yeah. And that's
then
his
she's like, well, what if
philosophy.
this happened and then this happened and then because of that this happened?
Well, and importantly, the this and this happening is what if these two people that you think have to be at odds came together and were friends and then made good things happen, and it's an encapsulation of those opposing ideologies. Did you notice that the toy she gives him looks like Krampus? That it's got those horns?
I want to say I did notice that.
And I thought that I didn't catch that until the second read, and I thought that was really interesting. I don't fully know how to read it, or if I should. I feel like if you read too far into that, it breaks down because. There would maybe be a chance he doesn't take it, but there maybe would be an opportunity for Magnus to turn around and get along with Klaus, but you've got this elemental monster that
kind of robot-y.
Yeah, I know, but look at his horns.
Yeah, he's got the horns.
That's intentional.
Yeah, no, it probably is.
Yeah, the whole thing doesn't look like Krampus. It's just the horns, and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
Because the design of those horns is real striking. And they look too much like that. I'm not sure what he's doing with that. Because again, it's not like Klaus and the monster get along at the end,
Yeah, no.
I do like that both versions of Klaus have a separate arch nemesis that are related. So you have Klaus, and then you have Santa Klaus, and you have Magnus, and I like that name, Magnus. He wants to be over everyone. And then he wants to be the greatest. And then you have the monster.
Yeah, which is never called Krampus, which I thought was kind of nice, given that Krampus is now getting super exposed and everything like that.
I like that too.
He's almost writing this book for the future where everyone knows what Krampus is, so he doesn't have to name it.
That's a good point. And if you don't know what Krampus is, if somehow or other you missed
monster.
that boat, it's fine. It's just a big monster. But it has to be Krampus because it is the flip of Santa Claus.
Well, and that all comes from that mythology.
I love this. He puts. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I love this. He puts the children in the bag, and Santa Claus is giving children toys from the bag. Again, it's that. There's a point in the second or third issue where Klaus kind of vocalizes his philosophy, and he says everything that we give, we get back. And I love that comes from, because I want to talk about his origin, not the Santa Claus origin, but the Klaus origin. I love that. That's a thing that, like the Spider-Man responsibility thing, he actually has to learn on his own, and it makes him a real person. He is the typical like child left on somebody's doorstep.
He's a foundling.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting that he's an orphan. He doesn't come from a family.
He comes to this ideology and kind of idealism because he was raised with the kindness of strangers and understands how important it is to give that back. And so, I mean, the book's kind of about karma.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't have thought of it in those terms, but you're right. Everything you do comes back to you. He does good things happen, and
the bad guy who just takes and takes and takes gets all that taken back from him.
And that ending is very Indiana Jonesy, like you get what you want, but you don't want it.
Yeah.
With Magnus.
Here it's what he deserves, and he says that.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment he actually wants to die. That's my read on that moment.
Okay.
Because he says, give me what I deserve, and I might be wrong about this, but he screams it, and he's got to know what's about to happen, and he's lost everything. At this point, his wife has just turned away from him. She's done, and he says, "Give me what I deserve." And you can read that two ways. You can read it as he's asking Krampus to force her to come back, or he's asking Krampus, "Kill me now. I know what I deserve."
Yeah,
and I like that that's ambiguous. I want to read it the second way, but I think both reads are valid.
I like the idea with Krampus being this ancient dark force.
Yeah.
That, this is a thing that comes up a lot in Hellblazer, but these are not things that are meant to be tampered with by man.
Yes.
And he has like this spell book, and he's got like the picture of Krampus, and when Krampus awakes, it's no longer in the picture.
Yes.
He holds up the book and he's like, no, it was here, and there's like a magic spell around the picture.
Well, remember, Krampus knows that he's bound to that book. And he says, free me from my prison, or whatever it is, but he also says, free me from my book. That was the thing I didn't catch the first time around, and I didn't know what it was. The first time I read this, I thought a lot of what he says in that seventh issue is real cryptic. And on a second read, I got most of it.
Yeah, you said that the first time. I
was like, oh, it turns into a Morrison book.
Yeah. I didn't read the super cryptic. I feel like I got most of what he's saying.
Yeah, once I looked at it a second time, I got much more of a read on it. Well, and magic is really interesting in this too, right? In how it works, in how it plays into that philosophy, where you've got a guy who's tampering with things that mortal man is not meant to tamper with, and then you have Klaus, who stumbles onto it, and nature gives him something.
Yeah, it's the using the force versus the will of the force kind of a thing.
Precisely.
Yeah. And there's just forest spirits. You have to accept that going into this book. There are just forest spirits.
Or do you? I had a thought about that.
Do you think it's Klaus from the future coming back in time and bestowing power upon himself?
I do not think that's what's going on. Now, I think this could have been made more explicit, and yet I'm not sure that it needs to be. This is the panel that made me wonder if there's a clue about what the forest spirits are.
Okay.
In play Our Young, are the forest spirits the spirits of dead children?
Oh, maybe the children killed by Krampus, taken by Krampus.
That's my thought.
Oh.
It's that panel that made me think of it.
Yeah. And that would make sense why they would make toys.
But then it is them saying that, so I don't know. But look at the sad faces, like,
and they're small.
Yeah.
You might be right.
I like that I don't know for sure. I think it's fine that I don't know for sure.
Yeah, especially in a story like this.
It is a lot of fun. Like I said, it's a real cohesive piece, and clearly Morrison knows, and the things he makes ambiguous are things that are not frustrating to not know. They're things where like, I get the motivations of the characters, I get why people are doing what they're doing. The only things that are...
You know how this universe works, it doesn't matter if I do, for the most part.
Yes, because it's a conceit anyway, and yet he gives us clues as to what it might be, so then it's not bogged down by the mythology, and I think that's really great.
Yeah, we don't spend a lot of time explaining. Santa just becomes immortal. They put stones on him, and he goes Super Saiyan or whatever, and then he's immortal. And there's a line when he gets the sword through his chest.
Yes.
That I think is a Superman reference. Did you read as a Superman reference?
I don't know.
Where he says, "For the man who has everything."
Yeah.
I give you Baron Ulrich's sword.
I don't think that's necessarily a Superman reference. I think that's a neat coincidence before it's anything.
Because that's an ad, I believe. I think that's where the Superman reference comes from. Is for the man who has everything, I give you, and then it's like something. I don't know what the original property was. So that might be some kind of thing. You know, there's no Coca-Cola in this.
but it is a really cool thing to say. I like that. This is the second time that Magnus stabs in the back, and this time he does it literally.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. And with that sword.
Yeah. I was gonna say something about the Santa and the myth and something with all that. I don't remember.
Well, I kind of wanted to get into some of that too, so maybe you can jog your memory with where I'm gonna go now, which is I think the way Morrison uses a lot of the standard iconography and lore and stuff, not just the classic mythological stuff, but what we see all the time today, is really creative, and you can tell that he starts from that and he says, how can I make a compelling story out of this? So like the coal thing, but also the reason he goes by Rooftop.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff like that.
There's a lot of that.
It's the Batman Begins thing, right?
Yes, and I was gonna say this is Santa Claus Begins.
Yeah. And then there's also references to things that
He's
maybe
flying on rooftops.
There's references to things that may come later. One of my favorites is the child demands small men.
Yes.
It'll be
I wanted little people.
Yeah, little people.
You have to beware of the little people because you might not be able to control them.
And it makes me wonder, given that the one shot that just came out is set in modern day, if more of that stuff will be there.
Oh, I imagine so.
But there's a lot of...
You have the urban legend thing.
Yeah.
We find a way to turn this into more of a Batman thing with what was there already. We don't have to get very far away from it.
And there's a lot of Robin Hood in there. Except he's wearing red instead of green.
Oh, yes. Yeah, naturally, of course.
He steals from the greedy and gives to the toyless. But
what'd you think of the bit with the guy who gets turned into a snowman?
Oh, that was great. But there's a lot of, and I'm sure there's more than I even noticed because I know Morrison did his research before he did this. I'm sure there's references to things about Santa Claus that I don't even know.
I imagine so. And things you just wouldn't have even known were references at all.
Yeah.
The letter writing. Writing letters to Santa Claus. That's a big thing. I didn't expect that. That's really cool. I like that he develops ho 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 by chopping a guy's head off, or by chopping Krampus's head off. I think that's great. I love the way he's violent. That he's not a violent person, but he's a warrior, and they set that up real early. And he was the captain of the guard. Oh, I like where the colors come from.
The guards' colors.
Yeah, and he specifically tells you what they represent. That the white is the snow of our homeland, and the red is the blood of the people who died for our freedom. And that's great because they don't have that freedom anymore, and so it means something to him.
Yeah.
That it doesn't currently mean for these soldiers.
So you had a read on the ending.
Yeah. And I still have the same read,
okay.
And I have evidence for it now.
Okay, cool. Because that's not how I read it.
Okay, why don't you?
And I'm not disagreeing.
Do you want to give your read first?
Yeah, I'll give my read first.
Yeah, go ahead.
So at the end, he stays with his wife until she's old and she passes.
Yeah, and this again is Magnus's wife, who he was with, and then she thought in the past, and she thought that he poisoned the Baron, which was her father.
Yeah.
And he had to flee. And now that she knows that that's not the case, and I like, by the way, that that's all done with toys. That like,
and she was kind of
that's how she finds out that he's there. Is that toy was a toy that he made,
and she was kind of manipulated by Magnus into being with him. She doesn't want to be there,
right?
But
it's more complicated than that, because he says he had a spell.
Yeah.
He says he had a magic spell that did it.
Yeah.
And she says that when she was younger and more impressionable, she was attracted to his thirst for power and his charisma and stuff. And she's gotten older and wiser, and she's no longer interested in that. So there's a really cool, there's a really cool ambiguity about whether or not. Well, and he gets her, of course, at a real vulnerable time because he kills her father. But there's a cool ambiguity to how much of it is actually mind control. It's like Rita and Zed. I'm just joking.
But so Klaus says that he's going to leave, and that once a year in the Yule time he will return and bring presents to the children. And the guy says there are 364 more days in the year. Where will you go?
Well, and importantly, the guy is the kid.
Yeah. Oh, is that?
Yeah.
That's what that.
That's
okay.
who that is.
I did not get that.
He's grown up. And I love that, because he's a man now. There are no bad children, and he's been raised right now, and now he's probably going to take over. He's probably the Baron now.
But he asks, like, what will you do? Where will you go?
I'm not sure about that, but that's something that makes sense.
And Santa says, "It's a big world. The sky goes on forever. I'll just have to use my imagination. Watch me when the nights are long and days grow cold. When there's need of a light in the darkness," and then he flies off. It's a Superman shot.
Yeah.
It's the rounding the earth. So my take is he's fighting evil for the rest of the year. That's what Santa's doing, is keeping darkness at bay. But you have a different take.
I think he's a cosmic entity now, and he's going to go off and find other planets that need Christmas. That's what I think. And part of it is that line you read: "The sky goes on forever."
Yeah.
They don't know what space is.
Well, I assume that's because the Earth rotates. It just keeps going. It's infinite.
Well,
that's my assumption.
Well, sure, and that's probably what he's assuming the kid is going to think. But
it could mean I'm going to Mars. I'm going.
It doesn't look like he's rounding the Earth. It looks like he's flying away from it.
Yeah.
You know, like either of those.
I see your read.
Yeah.
No. I get where you're coming from.
And
it's just not how I read it.
And the thing is, and it wasn't like me reading it and thinking, oh, it'd be really cool if it was that. I thought that's for sure what he was doing.
Yeah.
And when you had a different read, I was like, oh, maybe not. So like, I'm clutching to that a little bit, because that's just what I thought he was doing. My mind was blown, and I really want it to be that. And it's okay if it's not. I mean, you're right. He says watch for me, so that might mean he's still around on the planet the rest of the time. But what's weird about it is that the back of the book says, and finally answers the burning question: what does Santa Claus do the other 364 days of the year? It's on the back of the book, and we can't decide what that is. Finally answers that burning question, and we're opposed. We're arguing about it. So that blurb bothers
me. It answers that question with a question.
With a question, precisely.
He might be hanging out with Galactus. He might be fighting, Dormammu. We don't know.
A part of me wants a monthly, and a part of me wants this to just come out every year.
So we got, and it's not like a normal issue. It's like 40 pages.
Like I said, it's oversized. Yeah.
Klaus issue
and
came
it's
out.
Still Mora, and it looks just as good as this.
And he's a discovery.
Yes he is, and he won an award for that. Best new talent.
And he deserves it. It's
Russ Manning Award.
But a one shot came out. I like the idea that he'll put out a one shot every year.
I hope he does.
He's going to tell a Santa story every year, and then eventually those will get collected. Because at 40 pages, you could probably do 3 of those and collect it, maybe 4. And
I wouldn't mind another lengthy miniseries.
Yeah. If there was a big enough story to tell, doing it longer. But he should do it like this. It should not be a miniseries. He should do another graphic novel.
Yeah, and use Santa's Rose Gallery because he's got one. You know, I mean, like this is just perfect superhero stuff. You know,
I want to see him
me
do
the Abominable Snowman. Give me Jack Frost.
His take on. They're copyrighted, so they wouldn't be the same. But I want to see his take on Heat Miser and Snow Miser.
Yeah,
that'd be really cool. So yeah, no, this book is delightful. Everyone should read it. It's a little late because we're gonna put this out on Christmas, I believe.
Yeah,
that's the plan. Next year, buy it this year. Maybe read it, but I think I'm gonna try and read this every year.
Me too.
It's so good.
This is
It'll become a tradition, like watching certain Christmas movies that you watch every year. Like, I'm just gonna read this.
There's not a lot fighting for this title with me because I don't feel like I've read a whole lot of Christmas comics, but I think this is probably my favorite Christmas thing. I really like Batman Noel.
Yeah,
but I think this is beating that out now.
Yeah. No, I agree. I like this much better than Batman Noel, and I like Batman Noel, but I think that's really good.
And I would say this is either tied for or second place for me of the best thing I've read this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's.
I'm trying to think what the other thing is.
Dark Knight: A True Batman Story.
Oh yes, yes.
And
I knew it.
They're fighting right now.
And that's funny because Paul Dini loves Christmas. He throws like legendarily huge Christmas parties.
Oh yeah, you've told me that.
Yeah, he's a big. And
there's no way Dini has not read that.
And he has a Christmas series, Jingle Bell.
Really?
Yeah, he puts out, I guess, like miniseries or something like that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Well, anyway, anything else you wanted to say about this?
Everyone should read it.
Lots of
everyone should read it.
There's lots of analysis that I could do with this that we're just not getting to right now. I might eventually try to write something on this.
You should.
Maybe next year I will. I don't know. But
you should do it in a Santa voice.
Do it in the Santa voice. Yeah. And every time I say ho ho ho, you'll think I'm chopping somebody's head off. Everybody, thanks always for watching. We sure appreciate it. And Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. We'll be back again with you shortly with more videos. Everybody have a safe and wonderful holiday. And in the meantime, I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
See you next time.